You guys, I made my own Roman shades and I'm so excited by how cute they turned out. I'm going to show you how I did it. This involves some basic sewing, but don't worry if you can't sew. I'll show you how it can be done without sewing as well. You start with your fabric for the drapes and your fabric for your lining. You will need to get enough fabric to cover 3 inches wider than your window opening and 5 inches longer. I get a little extra to cover for mistakes as well. The lining needs to be 1 inch shorter than the width of your window opening and the same length as your drapery fabric. Next, you sew the side seams with the right sides together using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Sew one side at a time. Since the lining is not as wide as the fabric will fold over onto the back. Make sure you center that overlap and then stitch the bottom closed, also with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you don't sew, you can use double-sided fabric fuse hem tape to create your seams in the same way. Next, you have to measure where your dowels will go. They need to be cut to 1 inch less than the window opening. Mine were spaced 10 inches apart. The first dowel should be 9 inches from the bottom seam that you sewed, and then you measure 10 inches from there on up. I used 5 dowels for my shade. To make pockets for the dowels, you cut 2-inch pieces of the leftover lining fabric, 1 for each dowel, and then you fold them in half lengthwise and iron them flat, and then sew them closed with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, add those strips to the back of your drapery fabric where you marked the locations for each dowel using the fabric fuse tape. Slide the dowels into each pocket and then carefully turn the shade inside out. Iron all of the edges flat. Next, I added ring tape to each side of my shade on the back lining. I added more fabric fuse tape 7 inches in from each edge and made sure each ring was on top of each dowel rod. I went back and then hand stitched each ring down to each dowel, making sure to catch the drapery fabric on the front in my stitches. The bottom should be folded up 2.5 inches and then stitched in place. Slide a piece of wood, just any piece that fits, into this space. Make sure it is cut to length that will fit inside of your window, and then hand stitch or fabric fuse the pocket closed. Next, you will need a 1x2 that is cut to fit inside your window, and you'll need to add eye screws to the bottom edge that line up with your rings, and also add an additional one in the middle. Line up your 1x2 on the fabric so that the finished length of your shade is the same as the window opening. Fold the fabric over the 1x2 and staple it in place. Starting at the bottom ring, tie cording to that ring and then feed the cord up through the rings to the 1x2 and then across all 3 eye hooks, leaving a long tail. On the opposite bottom ring, repeat the process with a new cord, but only go through the eye hook that is directly above your rings. Gather the 2 cords together and tie them in a knot. To mount the shade, take 2 small L brackets. Mount them to the sides of your window opening first, then set your 1x2 on top of the L brackets and screw it in from the bottom. You will need to add a screw to the inside of the window near the bottom to attach the cords to in order to hold the shade open. I'm so happy with how cute these turned out, and it was way easier than I thought it would be. I hope you give it a try.